In this video, no one can hear you scream, especially if you disagree with me. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I am ranking all 9 Alien movies from my least favorite to my favorite. This, of course, includes the newly released Alien Romulus, which is now playing in theaters. I have a full review of that movie linked up above, so be sure to check it out if you haven't already. But before I dive into my ranking of this franchise, be sure to hit that like button and let me know your ranking of all these films down below. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. It will mean a lot. And if you want extra content, including reaction videos, commentary tracks, and live Q&As, you can find that over on my Patreon. I also just launched my YouTube membership page. Support on either of those goes a very, very long way. Without further ado, let's rank all 9 Alien movies. In dead last is Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. I watched this movie for the first time leading up to Romulus, and I was kind of dreading it because I hadn't heard it was very good. I didn't know anything about it though, and my god, this movie was an abomination. Like, it was so bad that after watching this movie, I had to go back and revise my scores for what I thought the worst Alien films were, because it made them look so much better. Not only did I not care about a single person in this movie or anything that happened, on top of that, the movie is dark as hell in more ways than one. For starters, it crosses the line with multiple kills, in my opinion. We're talking young children, pregnant woman, and it just was gross, frankly. And then, of course, it's dark in a sense that the movie itself is so poorly lit that the entire back half of this movie makes the Battle of Winterfell's lighting from Game of Thrones Season 8 look award-winning. Like, the last half of this movie, I'd say, is just a bunch of dark blobs running around in the rain. We can't even see the xenomorph predator hybrid or anything that's going on. All we can make out are 2 shadows clashing in the rainwater. Like, this is the definition of a half-star movie. I'm not even gonna waste my time talking about it anymore. AVP Requiem, may we never meet again. Good riddance. At number 8 on my list is going to be Alien vs. Predator, the first of the crossover series. And this movie's just absolute nonsense. You got paper-thin characters, essentially a non-existent main plotline. This movie is just a vehicle to have xenomorphs fighting predators. The studio just had to check the list and say, okay, we have to have something that we can call a movie. So these are all just stepping stones so that we can get to this point in time where they're going at it on the big screen, which is cool, I guess, but not really. Like, some of the fight scenes are entertaining enough out of context, but when you realize that the movie just has no purpose, it just serves to show xenomorphs fighting predators and nothing else, it has no substance, therefore there's no reason to care, and it can get dull rather quickly. Again, I felt absolutely nothing while watching this movie. It simply exists so that the studio can try and capitalize off of this big crossover event, but this movie has nothing going for it. However, when you compare it to AVP Requiem, it looks like it should be nominated for Oscars. At number 7 on my list, I've got Alien Resurrection, the 4th film in the franchise, and this entry is ridiculous stupid. The concept is just flat out goofy. Let's have Ripley in the film, but not really Ripley, a clone of her. When will franchises learn to stay the hell away from cloning? This movie has some Rise of Skywalker level bullshit in it that just irritated me to no end. Now, sure, there are some memorable xenomorph kills here, and there's an underwater sequence with xenomorphs chasing after the group. It had me holding my breath. It was intense, I'll give it that, but I just couldn't get past how outlandish everything in this movie was. Like, in the 3rd act with the newborn stuff, it just got unbearably dumb. And we gotta talk about the elephant in the room that's been talked about to death with this movie. I've found it is very uncomfortably horny. Like, just strange. I don't know what was going on in the writer's room. Shout out to Ron Perlman, I guess, for being the most entertaining character in this movie. Just super over the top. Resurrection is way more watchable than the 2 AVP movies, but that's really not saying much. At number 6 on my list, I've got Alien 3, which is a highly controversial film. It's directed by David Fincher, though he himself doesn't really claim this one. And there's tons of stories about the studio interference that went on behind the scenes with the making of Alien 3. But throwing all that aside, the movie itself does something that is completely unforgivable in the first 10 minutes that pisses me off. Spoilers for Alien 3 if you haven't seen it, but killing off Newt and Hicks off screen is offensive to no end. It leaves such a bad taste in my mouth, and that's just looming over the rest of the movie as I watch through it. In fact, the rest of this movie just becomes a poor attempt at this one location slasher-esque film set in a space prison with a xenomorph. It's safe to say this threequel is a disgrace to the previous two Alien movies. When I first watched it, I genuinely felt betrayed. That's the case here on rewatch as well. At least Alien 3 has the atmosphere of an Alien movie to a certain extent, but even then, that's kind of a stretch. I will say Charles Dance's character stands out. Like, him and Ripley's conversations are some of my favorite in this entire movie. But other than that, Alien 3 does not provide much. This movie's still a stinker and does something that is completely unforgivable the first 10 minutes that loses me, and I'm sure it loses a lot of you guys as well. Bringing us into the top 5, I've got Alien Covenant. Now, I've only seen this movie once, and I'm still very conflicted about it. I feel the same way about a movie we'll talk about in a second, but I do acknowledge that on a rewatch, my thoughts could change for the better with Covenant. I can't help but feel like so many world-altering ideas presented in this movie are just flat out shallow. Like, so many concepts are introduced here, and they're just never fully explored. I also firmly believe that the lore of this universe gets even more convoluted with this entry in particular. But on the bright side, we have Michael Fassbender as both Walter and David here, and he knocks it out of the park. The conversations that those two characters have about philosophy were hitting, and Fassbender's performance genuinely carries this movie for me. In fact, the gang of characters here are pretty compelling across the board. It does help that comedic legend Danny McBride is in the picture. He's the man. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that there are some gnarly kills on display here. So like all around, I was invested in Covenant, right? The sequel to the prequel. But I did leave a bit underwhelmed and wanting more, specifically when it comes to exploring more of these ideas that it presents about the overall world that we're in. At number 4 on my list, I've got Prometheus, which is a funny one for me because I still remember back in 2012 when this movie came out, they were showing the preview in theaters a bunch, and I would go to the movies and see this preview, and I would say to myself as a 12-year-old, no way I'm ever watching that movie. And it's crazy how much time has changed since then. But I can safely say I was way more engaged with Prometheus than I was with the two Alien sequels post-Aliens. It takes some big swings out the gate, and it goes on to play with these concepts of creation and the meaning of existence. Therefore, it can get really trippy at times with not everything fully making sense by the end. Like, this is a real thinker of a movie. It's filled with deeper meanings, and because of that, I think both Prometheus and Covenant are movies that when I rewatch eventually, I will probably appreciate a lot more because I'll pick up on more things and maybe have a greater understanding of what Ridley Scott was really going for. It doesn't help, though, that the majority of the characters in this movie are either underdeveloped or just one note as hell. So while I was engaged with Prometheus, I do think it's undeniably a bit of a slow burn, and I can see how that can turn a lot of folks away from this one. However, it is arguably the best looking Alien film to date. The Oscar nom for VFX was well deserved. By the time the credits rolled with Prometheus, I was a bit frustrated and unsatisfied with certain things, but like I keep repeating with both Prometheus and Covenant, I imagine one day if I rewatch them, I will probably be a bigger fan. At number 3 on my list is the newly released Alien Romulus, directed by Fede Álvarez. This is comfortably the best film of the franchise since 1986. Alien has desperately needed a win, and I'm happy to say this is just that. Again, I have a review of this movie that I have linked up above and the description of this video if you want my full in-depth thoughts, but I can say up front, visually, this movie rocks. There are multiple shots that kind of had me in awe when I was watching an IMAX of these establishing shots of, ships in space near planets. You really felt the scale of this movie. It was huge, and it made it even more immersive. On top of that, the movie has a score that's just pulse pounding. It gets your adrenaline going, and it really enhances the intensity of various scenes in this film. Also, it takes a page out of the original film's book by giving the audience time to understand the characters and feel for the characters prior to the chaos. In fact, the movie gives us a promise up front. Hey, you're going to get some xenomorph in this film, so calm down, but you're going to have to wait so that you can actually care when the shit hits the fan. Romulus is also gory as hell. I would say it probably has the most gruesome imagery in the entire franchise. The movie's not without its flaws for me, though. Specifically in the third act, it makes one decision near the end that just didn't land for me. In my opinion, it It felt out of character and goofy when compared to the rest of the movie I had been watching. It's very comparable to something I hate from a previous entry that you can probably guess by now. This film in particular also explores some lore concepts that feel a bit generic and repetitive at this point in the franchise, and by the time the credits rolled, it felt like they had no real weight except to try and elevate this one character who may or may not make a return from a previous entry. So that all just didn't really fully click for me. However, this is a thrilling entry, a clear winner for Alien. I was locked in from the jump, and it might just have the coolest sequence in the entire franchise involving zero gravity. I don't want to say too much, but whew, chills. Again, Romulus is a win for the series, no doubt, and when I rewatch it, maybe some of my issues will be resolved or won't bother me as much. Here's to hoping. My runner-up is going to be Aliens from 1986. This is a rare sequel that flips the script by changing up genres from the original, and not only does it work, but it kicks major ass. I absolutely love the dynamic of the squad in this film. You've got a lot of new characters and this ragtag group who are kicking xenomorph ass throughout the film. Bill Paxton's Hudson has to be a standout for me. He has the most obscure one-liners that got me laughing out loud a lot. James Cameron really came in and expanded this world with epic action, but he also got the characters right because Newt and Ripley are the emotional anchor of this film. And if it weren't for that specific dynamic between characters, Aliens would not work. This is just one of the greatest sequels out there. It's action-packed, visually so impressive, and holds up to date. James Cameron knocked it out of the park, and of course,
get away from her, you bitch!
But taking the top spot has to be Alien for me. This is the one that started it all back in 1979, and simply put, it's an all-timer. And it has to have the coolest tagline for a movie ever, right? In space, no one can hear you scream. I see that on a poster in 1979, I'm sold. Alien does a phenomenal job of creating this sense of dread from the jump, and it never lets up. In my Letterboxd review, which you guys can follow me on Letterboxd at Filmstocked, I say that a lot of monster movies nowadays have lost the plot. What I mean by that is they stopped having compelling characters and just care about throwing monsters in your face and having all this action. But if you do that without having a group of characters in the film that you really care about, it's all for nothing. And this movie does a fantastic job of establishing the various character dynamics out the gate before the carnage kicks in, so that we're actually invested when everyone starts getting picked off one by one in classic horror fashion. And I have to tip my hat to the out-of-this-world visual effects in this film, specifically the practical effects. There are things in this film burned into my brain forever, and the majority of the VFX still hold up to this day and look better than movies releasing in theaters in 2024. That says something. Alien is just a genuine classic that has stood the test of time and will continue to do so forever. It has a truly terrifying concept. It never gets old when you rewatch it. Alien is the gold standard for this franchise and a movie that everyone should watch at least once in their lifetime. But that's going to do it for my Alien ranking. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and of course check out my Patreon or become a YouTube member for extra content. Thank you guys as always for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.